Our fourth honoree tonight is one of the country's highest profile mayors, whose hometown of Calgary is one of Canada's most vibrant cities. Naheed Nenshi has been Calgary's mayor since 2010. His love for Canada and for Calgary in particular is palpable. After his smile, it's the first thing you notice about him. And the thing about Naheed is he never stops working for his city, something Calgarians witnessed when devastating floods hit in 2013. His measured reaction to the crisis, always on and always in control, earned him superstar status. And his, actually one of many very own hashtags, this one, hashtag naps for Nenshi. Des citoyens ont remplacé le visage de Superman par le sien sur ses affiches. Sur d'autres affiches, on pouvait lire « Keep calm and Nenshi on ». Le magazine Maclean l'a nommé deuxième personne la plus influente au Canada, après le Premier ministre. C'était l'autre de toute façon. Ça me semble tout à fait dans l'ordre des choses. En 2014, la fondation City Mayors au Royaume-Uni lui a remis le prix du meilleur maire au monde pour avoir été, comme le prix l'indique, le meilleur maire au monde. And he keeps reminding us, and it's good, because he really is. As the Globe and Mail reported, he was cheerleader, director, benevolent scolder. Help your neighbors, he exhorted, be it with a shovel or a ride. Hug your emergency providers. Speaking of hugs, last spring, I received a letter from the mayor. Here's what it said. As a fellow lover of cute, cuddly panda cubs, and having observed with envy your recent opportunity to hold Jia Pan Pan and Jia Yue Yue in Toronto during their naming ceremony, I trust you can understand my own desire to embrace these pandas with open arms here in Calgary. He wanted federal funding for the Calgary Zoo and the pandas. It was a great letter, but we had to decline. For the record, these decisions are always made by the finance minister, who you can talk to later tonight. Just as Calgary is fortunate to have Naheed as its leader, Canada is lucky to have him as a citizen. His parents chose Canada, immigrating here from Tanzania in 1971. They came to Toronto, one of just 6 Ismaili families in the city. They weren't in Toronto for long, though. In an address to the Institute of Canadian Citizenship, Naheed said of that journey, "When I was 1, we packed up a Dodge Dart and moved to Calgary. Sometimes we were very poor. Sometimes we were just mostly poor. But what we lacked in money, we gained in opportunity." In Calgary, Naheed went to great schools. He lived in a great community with public libraries, public recreation, and public transit. He went to a public university, an experience that more than prepared him for a stint at Harvard. He started a consulting business and later became Canada's first tenured professor in the field of non-profit management at Mount Royal University's Bissett School for Business. Throughout it all, he has remained a steadfast champion for a diverse Calgary and a diverse Canada. Naheed has often talked about how much his father loved Toronto City Hall, and so it was fitting in 2010 that his dad would be with him in another City Hall to watch his son being sworn in as Calgary's mayor. What a wonderfully Canadian story. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and welcome our friend, Naheed Nenshi.
Well, merci, Premier Ministre. Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister. Whose life is this? What in the world am I doing here? I was going to tell you a little bit of my life story, but the Prime Minister not only gave my speech in his introduction, he also just gave my speech in his introduction to me. So you've heard it all. But I am, in fact, a kid who was born a short walk from here at St. Mike's Hospital. My mother had figured out she was pregnant just before my folks decided to take the trip of a lifetime and come see that city hall that my dad had always seen photos of. So I was born in Canada, but made in Africa. And I moved when I was pretty young to what my family thought was a new land. It turns out we moved to a very ancient land. We moved to a place where I was raised called Mokinstis, the elbow, the place where two rivers meet, a place where for thousands of years people have been coming to hunt and fish and trade and live and love and fight sometimes, to have great victories, to taste bitter disappointment. When I think about the state of the world today, and when I think about the broken world in which we live, I'm comforted by reminding myself that the original inhabitants of the land that I call home, the Nitsitapi, the people, we call them the Blackfoot people now, have always generously shared that land with others. Our neighbors are the Beaver people of the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Stoney people of the Nakota Nations, the Métis people with whom we walk hand in hand. And for the last 150 years or so, people from every corner of this broken earth who've come here to this place of safety, of sanctuary, of welcome, and above all, of opportunity. I grew up in a neighborhood in northeast Calgary called Marlborough. For those of you from Toronto, Marlborough is a lot like Scarborough, except with a really good functioning LRT. I've been in this biz for a while. Sometimes public policy decisions are inexplicable. But I grew up in a neighborhood, as you heard the Prime Minister say, taking my best lines, of enormous opportunity. And I worry right now. I worry a lot, and I think a lot of people in this room worry a lot about the state of the world. How do we look after one another? How do we make sure that those who are going to be hit by economic disruption are able to live lives of dignity in our community? What do we do in the face of a world where the voices of intolerance and racism and hatred, the voices of homophobia, anti-Semitism, continued discrimination against our Indigenous brothers and sisters, and yes, especially Islamophobia, are growing louder and louder? How do we respond as Canadians to a world where the forces that would tear us apart are prevailing or seeming to prevail over the forces that would bring us together? We can't stand in a cocoon and say we are a community and a country that is committed to pluralism and that makes everything okay. We know that that hatred exists here more than as much as it does anywhere else. That is a beautiful trophy. Luckily, it's made of metal. They must have known I was coming. We know that that hatred exists here as much as it does anywhere else. But you know what? We as Canadians are not defined by the hatred. We are defined by how we, every one of us, respond to that hatred. We are defined by how we, every one of us, as everyday people, using our everyday hands, our everyday hearts, our everyday souls, and our everyday voices, make extraordinary change for others in our community. That's what makes this nation work. All day today, people have been asking me why I'm wearing this number 3. And I wear it every day, as a matter of fact. And in this room, this room being this room, most people say, it means third term for Mayor Nenshi, right? That is not what it means. October 16th, just saying if you have friends in Calgary. What it actually means, what it actually is my sesquicentennial project, my Canada 150 project. And I hope it's a project that you'll join with me in. I actually have two sesquicentennial projects. The first sesquicentennial project is I just want to be able to say the word sesquicentennial as much as possible. It's a super awesome word to say. Et comme toujours, pour ceux qui parlent français, c'est plus fun en français, n'est-ce pas? Sesquicentenaire. Sounds both delicious and dangerous all at the same time. My real sesquicentennial dream is one that I hope all of you will join with me in when we think about our response and who we are as Canadians in the world. And that is, I'm reaching out to every Canadian coast to coast to coast to consider giving an anniversary gift to the nation. And that gift is 3 acts of community service. That's what the 3 is. 3 things for Canada, 3 gestes pour le Canada. Just imagine if I'm successful in this crazy dream. If people do small things, mow your neighbor's lawn. Do big things, join the board of a nonprofit organization in your community. If I'm successful in this crazy quest, that's 100 million acts of community service, large and small, for your community, for your province, for your nation, for your world. And what kind of a message would that be from Canadians? To say that in this broken and terrifying world, the way we choose to celebrate our milestone anniversary is by understanding that the future of humanity is community and the future of community is service. It's a crazy dream, isn't it? But it's one that encapsulates, I think, who we are as Canadians. I'm an incredibly lucky guy. I get to live in a great community. I come from an amazing family. And I get to go to work every single day to fulfill the promise of our community. The promise that it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. It doesn't matter what your level of disability is. It doesn't matter how you worship or whom you love. That every single one of us in every single corner of this nation gets the chance right here, right now, to live a great Canadian life. That's the promise of our community. And I get to go to work every day to make that happen. But you know what? It's the job of every single one of us, everyday people with their everyday hands and our everyday voices, to make that promise happen every day, to make sure that this remains that place of safety, of security, of welcome, and above all, of opportunity for everyone. Thank you all.